No. Hello and welcome. Wherever you are in the world, good evening to the Europeans, good morning to our American friends. This is live stream 2 from Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions. This is live stream number 1 because last night was just a practice. If you were here last night, and some of you were, welcome back. If you're new, welcome again. What are we doing here? What's the purpose of all this? Well, we at Tiger, that's him, you know him and me, we believe that small improvements to your Excel knowledge yield massive improvements to your productivity and yield massive time savings at work. So by learning a little bit, you can achieve a great deal. And what do we call this? Well, Chris calls it the Excel Revolution. And he is the architect of the Excel Revolution, Christopher Mortimer. You know him. I'm his brother, Stephen. I just do the chit-chat because I can't really do the hard stuff, but Chris can. So Chris, how are you doing? What's going on?
Pretty good, thank you, Stephen. I think it's a bit unfair to say that the Excel Revolution, to say that I'm the sole architect, I think is a little bit unfair because I think we came up with the narrative together, I'd say. Back in the day, 4 or 5 years ago,
we crafted the narrative
here in Berlin, absolutely. But you hit the nail on the head there. What we're saying is a little bit of Excel learning, but particularly a little bit of Excel coding, and we're going to be talking about VBA coding today. Just a little bit of that can help make big time savings in your work, and I would say can help achieve a change in mindset. The way you're thinking about Excel, this can lead to lots of time saving, but can also, transform your career. I'd say, turn you into more of a programmer, more confident with that kind of task.
Yeah. But
we're here in Berlin today. It's been a beautiful day in Berlin today.
The barbecues are out. The summer's finally arrived. Hopefully summer's arrived wherever you are. Hey, if you're in the chat, tell us how the weather's been. Tell us what you've been up to. Maybe you had a hard week and you're spending your Saturday night with us, which is absolutely amazing. Maybe you're just easing your way into the weekend right now and you're thinking it's going to be a good one. We hope it is. We're here just to help you on that journey with some useful Excel knowledge. And what's going to happen today? Well, we have a viewer question from last night, which Andrew sent in, and he was extremely good with his homework. Last night he sent us a file with a variety of questions, and it's all to do with beginning to learn VBA, which I believe stands for Visual Basic for Applications.
Absolutely.
See, I've been doing my homework as well. The plan is today, folks, that we discuss some of Andrew's questions. We got Andrew live in the chat board. He can be correcting us if we mess up his stuff or giving his thoughts. Everyone else, get involved. Fire in questions if anything's unclear. If anything goes wrong technically, let us know as well. And in that case, I'll hand over to you, Chris.
Yep.
We're going to split the screen, so we're going to see your Excel, we're going to see the stuff you're working on. I'll ask you questions if anything's unclear, and I'll be moderating the chat. So if you don't get anything, then holler at us on the chat. I'll be reading that, and I'll make sure Chris hears your question.
Fantastic.
Okay, shall we head over?
Right, so let's switch to the Excel view. So you should be able to see that now. All that should be coming through very shortly on your stream. And yeah, just a couple of introductory remarks. So this is what we'd like to get going on these streams. So thinking about the long-term direction of this channel, and in Berlin, we're not just doing the half marathon. We're actually having a bit of a business meeting this weekend and trying to think about where we might be going with this channel. The long-term direction, we want to make things more interactive, and without sounding too warm and fuzzy, we want to create a bit of a community here where people can come, learn about Excel, get answers to their questions, build their skills, build their confidence, and then gradually we want to diversify things, not just Excel. We've got a whole range of topics we want to cover here because we're both involved in teaching and training a whole range of business topics. But today, of course, Excel and VBA in particular. And as Steve said, we've got a question in from Andrew. Andrew, thank you for sending your question in. Thank you for watching yesterday and today. That goes to all of our viewers. And we're going to get into it. We're in the Excel view now. So Andrew, your file, I've got it here. Now this is a great example of a beginner VBA task, but we're calling it a beginner VBA task because Andrew himself has told me he's a beginner, but looking through his coding, he seems to be a fairly accomplished coder.
He's got skills.
Yeah, so well done, Andrew. And it's a good task because I think, from my experience working with people trying to get Excel to work, this is typical of what people are trying to do. So Andrew's got a workbook here, got lots and lots of sheets in the workbook, and Andrew is trying to complete what you'd call a repetitive task. And this particular repetitive task, we've got some information on each worksheet, and particularly I've written this down. We want to take the information from cell A2, cell C2 and cell G2. Take that information, remember the word we learned yesterday, Steve, to begin with, that begins with C.
Concatenate.
Concatenation. Absolutely. So we just want to bring that information together. So here we'd say sparfach 1 and 100. And we'd want that information to be the name of the sheet.
What's a Sparfach, Chris?
Good question. Yeah, we're getting into the German on the stream.
Well, Andrew, who's told us in the stream that he's bilingual English and German. We're doing this here in Berlin, so I live in Germany, so I'm happy to see what Woche, Datum, Sparfach. It would be a savings box or some kind of savings account.
I see.
Correct me if I'm wrong there, though, Andrew. Okay, sorry. Let's continue.
Very good. Very good. No, so well, it's good that we've got a real application. You know, Andrew is using this, as far as I can see, in his day-to-day work. So we want to take the contents of cell A2, cell C2, cell G2, bring them together, and down the bottom here we've got the name of the worksheet. In the tab here we've got the name of the worksheet. We want the name of the worksheet to become those three things concatenated together. You see? Okay. Now what have we got here? We've got one Sparfach, 1 and 100. So if we didn't have any coding knowledge, this is what we'd be doing. Clicking down here. Can you just check they can see this in the stream? Might be just outside of their screenshot. Okay, yes, it will be just outside of their screenshot. I wonder if I can just adjust this up. There we go. Okay, should be inside your screenshot now. So what people might be doing is doing this manually. So clicking on the sheet tab, right click, and then rename, and then we can type the name in here, Sparfach 1 and then 100. So we've got the contents of cell A2, C2 and G2 if we move over, and they are being combined together and becoming the name of the sheet. So this is what we're looking to do.
So that's the manual way of doing it?
Absolutely, this is the manual way of doing it.
So you could just do that?
Could just do that. You know, if you only have 2 or 3 sheets, you know, you might not bother you. You know, you might not notice. But as we can see in the file, I'm just going through the file here. Oh, we have got dozens and dozens of sheets. I haven't gone to the end of the file yet, but we'll actually use code to count the number of sheets in a file. Okay. But
that, in fairness, would take like an hour of just copying and pasting, right? Okay.
Exactly.
No one has time for that.
So we've got the time thing, but there's something more fundamental here, which is that people lose confidence in Excel and people begin to associate Excel with, you know, these time-consuming tasks, stress, etc., etc. So it's not just the loss of time, it's also people getting annoyed with Excel, and this is why it tends to have this reputation, if you like. You know, people always go, oh, Excel, don't like Excel, etc., etc. So a little bit of code can help alleviate that, and as I said, hopefully achieve a bit of a change in mindset. So that's what we're looking to do. Right, let's get into the code. So can you make sure we can see the coding window here? Maybe you can just tell us in the chat. Here we've got the spreadsheet and the coding window. So we've got Andrew's code here. And I'm going to start a new module. I'm just going to bring this window across here. A new module with my coding. So to do that, we get into Visual Basic Editor first. First, where's the Visual Basic Editor? If you go to the Developer tab, and then over on the left, just click on Visual Basic. This is assuming you're on a PC, of course. Similar process on Mac. Then you just click Visual Basic, you'll get the Visual Basic Editor open. The shortcut you can use on Windows is Alt F11. Hold down the Alt key and hit F11. This will allow you to open the VBA editor. But my kind of practical tip at this point is try to arrange the windows, so the Excel window and the VBA editor, so they are alongside each other. This makes coding so much easier. You want to create a situation where you can work through the code and then see what's going on in the spreadsheet at the same time. So we can...
So it essentially looks like you've got it on the screen now. That's a good way of doing it. Okay.
Try to set it up like that. You can do this in Windows by holding down the Windows key and using the cursors. Or ideally, you'll have two screens.
Two monitors.
Ideally, yeah, which is
what
we
would need, but next time.
Yeah. So yeah, get this set up before you start any coding task. This is going to be helpful. Okay, so let's throw another module in here, and to do that, insert and module, and we can see we've got module 1 here, a new module. Good coding practice: when you start a new module, we're going to put option explicit at the top. Now this is one of those kind of obscure coding phrases. If you saw that in real,
I'm trying to work out why you do that.
Absolutely. Well, this tells the VBA editor to work in a particular way, and the practical explanation is, if we say option explicit to begin with, whenever we run some code, the Visual Basic Editor is going to check our language for mistakes before it starts to run the code. So it does, to put it very simplistically, it does a little spell check. Little spell check for us. That's going to tell us straight away if we've made a silly spelling mistake. That has saved, for me, that has saved half an hour, possibly even hours of debugging.
And is that generally known? Do people know about that?
I wouldn't say it's generally known. If you've got a reasonable amount of coding experience, then you'll know about option explicit. If you've done a structured learning course at university, you should know about option explicit. But yeah, definitely option explicit to begin with. At the top of the module, so before we start our subroutines, our macros, option explicit at the top.
Good tip.
And now let's get into our routine. So we're going to create a new macro, which is, well, do you know what a macro is, Steve?
Okay, I think it's a small program within another program which achieves something.
Very good.
Right?
Yep, so
I'm trying to keep up.
Very productive this weekend. Yes, absolutely. A macro, just a short computer program that we can record using the macro recorder and then tweak ourselves, usually to get something done quickly to involve some kind of repetitive work. So we type in sub, that means we're going to start a new program, then we have to give it a name. And this is where option explicit helps us, because it checks the names of variables and also the names of subroutines. But we're going to call this sub, let's say, name sheets. Okay. Now this, the name of the subroutine here, we can use pretty much anything apart from some things. Can you remember from the stream?
Yeah. I can remember. So there's certain words which might seem intuitive to use, but Excel has reserved them. So you can't use column. You can't use cell.
Absolutely.
All right.
Things like that. Worksheet as well is likely to be problematic.
Okay.
But name sheets, this is okay. If you're in doubt, people who've seen other videos, my other videos on the channel, you can just put your name at the front there to begin with, and that definitely means you're going to avoid some kind of reserved name. Okay, so I'll just put Chris there.
Okay, fine.
But this is fine. Name sheets. Now this, the name of the routine should be informative, so that we can tell what the routine does just by looking at the name of the routine. Because if you've been working on a file for a while, you could have hundreds of macros here,
right?
And you want to be able to understand, straight away what the macros.
Not just have like a random code, or not just like type in something random, but have something you can identify later. And also, like in a few months when you've forgotten this and you go back to it and you realise what on earth was I writing?
Yeah. Okay. So see, people using things like ABC, that's likely to become confusing later.
Yeah. Okay.
Since we're talking about good coding practice, good to put some annotations in as well. These
are instructions for your future self.
You can say that, notes, indeed. So as you said, for your future self. So if you're coming back to the code next month, next year, and on my project, sometimes I go back to code from 2 or 3 years ago. Annotations tell you in English what the code does, can save you a lot of time, helps you understand, but also, perhaps more importantly, if you're working collaboratively, working with other people, then you can explain in English what the code does. That's going to probably make them appreciate you more, I'd say.
It's one of these things that, because you don't have to do it in the moment, you might not do it, but you will just be so thankful if you get into the habit.
Absolutely. Stitch in time, save 9.
No.
any number of other expressions about, you know, saving time in the long run. This is going to save us time. Good code.
How do you designate something as an annotation and not code?
So we go for an inverted comma, I believe this is. So we just hit the inverted comma, we can see it there.
Yep.
And then what we type now is going to become an annotation. So we can tell it's an annotation. Because, well, another way we can tell it's an annotation, it's got an inverted comma in front of it. We can also tell it's an annotation because it appears in green. Now, when Excel runs the code, it's going to just ignore the annotations. It's going to ignore what it's saying.
And you can write whatever you want in there.
Yeah, we can write whatever we want in there. There's a theoretical limit, you know, you couldn't write an essay in there. But yeah, just generally, you know, a short annotation for each line of code is going to help us out.
Okay.
Now, firstly, we wanted to find out how many sheets are in this workbook.
Now, we do know, because Andrew told us on the stream, on the top chat, but imagine we didn't know that.
Good.
Let's find it out.
Okay. So just a bit of a bonus here. I won't go too far into this line of code. But let's say active workbook .sheets.counts. Now, we've already spoken about computer programming languages, and we're both linguists, I suppose we would say. Although I'm kind of a retired linguist now, I think.
I'm an active linguist.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, some parts of Visual Basic, thinking about VBA as a programming language, some parts we can read and kind of get a sense for what's going on. And it does have a reputation as a fairly user-friendly language, but other things like option explicit, you know, are less intuitive, less self-explanatory. But this line of code here, active workbook .sheets.count, and then let's put a message box on the front here. So if we use this message box code MSGBOX, that's going to flash up a message box in Excel. So this piece of code here should just tell us how many sheets are in the workbook. I'm going to run the routine now. There we go. So we've got 60 here. So we've got a message box flashing up. So I know now there's 60 sheets in the workbook. Not essential for the task, but just kind of helpful to know. It gives me a sense of the scope of the task, and it's just a useful line of code to have up your sleeve rather than having to count sheets in a workbook, which could take a long time. Good. Okay. So now we've got to think about getting into this task, and what are we trying to do? Well, when you're approaching a coding task, it's a good idea to try to say in English what you're trying to do. Try to get that conceptual understanding. Or
like literally say it out loud.
I will say it out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will pace around my office. Just kind of chanting.
He does do that.
Yeah, I've been known to do this, but like saying out loud what I'm trying to do, because you know, when people have problems with code, you know, people tend to blame their technical understanding, tend to blame the code, if you like, but often people don't have a clear idea logically in their own head of the steps they're going to go through to get the task done.
And it's breaking it down into steps, isn't it? Because there's not going to be code that does this whole thing for you. You have to break it down.
Indeed, because, well, yeah, Visual Basic can only literally work through step by step what we give it. So what are the main steps going to be? Well, we want to change the name of the worksheet. So change the worksheet name. And we want to make the worksheet name equal to the values in 3 cells. So that's in English or in your native language. So Andrew speaks German.
Sehr schön.
Very good. So, you know, just try to say out loud what you're trying to do. Maybe write it down. You could even use annotations in the Visual Basic editor, but do something to get it clear in your head what you're trying to do. Try to resist the temptation to just jump straight into the coding. So what we're trying to do is change the worksheet's name. So let's start with this, and let's just say active sheets. So active sheet is the active worksheet. It should be fairly explanatory. And then I know a property of the worksheet is the name of the worksheet. So as if we're looking to work with or change a worksheet name, we use this code here. So active sheet is the worksheet currently active. and name,
dot name
is the name of the worksheet. Again, a fairly intuitive line of code.
Is that capitalization important? Active, capital, sheet capital?
It's actually not. Excel will put it in for us.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we type it in lowercase, there we go, and then go elsewhere, then we can see that Excel puts, the VBA editor put the capitalization.
Excel is your friend.
Yeah, trying to help. Always say Excel tries to help.
It tries to help.
It doesn't always come across well, but it tries to help.
Yeah.
Right, so we've got some code here to change the name of the sheet. So let's just change the name to my own name. Let's see what happens here. I'm going to just play the code, if you like. Yeah, it's important to not be too kind of timid about testing the code. I always think perfectionism isn't really a virtue in coding, I would say. You've got to try out the code. You're going to learn a lot from getting it wrong and getting some feedback from Excel about what is wrong. So just save the file. Got Control S to save the file here. Taking a bit of time, it's got a lot running on the computer at the moment. And then we can just play the macro. Now we'd expect the sheet name to
change to Chris, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're looking for. Okay, there we go.
Boom.
Well, the sheet name has changed. Okay,
Easily
we
done.
can put whatever we like in there. Put Steve in there. And there we go. Now that in itself could be addictive. You know,
You could go through all kinds of names.
Yeah, all kinds of names. Spend Saturday night doing.
Before we do that, Chris, let's just if anyone's just joining us, what we're doing is we're discussing how to change the name of a worksheet based on cell content. After that, we've had another question come in from Pradeep. I'm not sure whether we're going to have time, but we're going to have a look at it. How much longer will this take, Chris?
This one, I'd say we're about 40% of the way through.
Okay, so we got a while to go on this, but we're going to get to your
stuff in this one.
Okay, so there's a lot. We can lots to learn, but we'll continue with this. Then we'll get to your question, Pradeep. So stick around.
Yep.
Subscribe to the channel if you're new. You know, you can totally do that. That's what they say on YouTube. Subscribe.
Yeah.
Click on the notification bell. No,
there's 100 videos also already.
All kinds of good stuff
on the channel.
All kinds of good stuff. Anyway, so that was your chance to go to the toilet or to grab a beer or the tipple of your choice, because we're going to get back into it now with the next stage in this little Excel adventure, which we got from Andrew. Thanks again, Andrew, for sending us the file. And Andrew can't type; he's broken his hand, but we're going to send him the file back. So
Excellent. Sounds good.
Sorry, man. Sorry, but never mind. You're going to get the file. Okay, Chris.
Sounds good.
Let's continue.
Is Andrew okay? Maybe we could.
We believe Andrew's okay. He broke his fingers during a fall.
Okay, so we've managed to.
Sorry, man.
We've managed to change the name of the worksheet to whatever text we type in here. Okay, let's take it a step further. We want to change the name of the worksheet to whatever text is typed into a particular cell. Okay, so we're adding a kind of more dynamic element to the code here. So we're going to use a cell reference, and let's just say range, this is A2 dot value. So this is how we reference cells in VBA. Range A2 is cell A2, and then dot value means whatever's in the cell at the moment.
So that'll change now dynamically. You just do this once, and whatever goes in that cell, it'll update it.
Yeah, let's try it. Okay, so let's play the code, see what happens. So we can see it's now changed to sparfag. Okay, and then let's change the content of this cell to something else. And play the routine, and there we go. So whatever's written in this cell now, the name of the sheet is going to change to whatever's in the cell, and there we go. Okay, so we moved it from just some static text that were written in the VBA editor to whatever's in that cell. So you see how it's taking shape here, slowly, I think. And
it's still doing it slowly because we're going it step by step, but you're still saving vast amounts of time, and later on you're going to forget to change it and it's going to get out of date and stuff. I mean, it's all about investing a little bit of time to learn a few key skills, and it just makes everything better.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've got the contents of A2, but we don't just want the contents of A2, do we? We want the contents of A2, the contents of C2, and the contents of G2. So here we're going to do the concatenation.
Okay, so this is combining the content of multiple cells to create like a mega name.
Absolutely.
Which is going to be the name of the worksheet.
That's the one.
I love it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to move on. I want the code to move on to a new line here. Well, I'm actually continuing the same line, but because of the display, I'm going to just move on to a new line here. Yeah, we've got a little bit more room. So if you use the underscore, use the underscore in VBA editor and then go on to the new line, you will continue the previous line of code.
There's a space there between the value and the underscore.
That's right.
That needs to be there, right?
That's necessary, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then, well, we've got to think about what our next reference should be. So I'll ask you, Steve, what are the three sources of code? We're going to go on to a slightly more theoretical level here. what are the three sources of code? What is it? Ketchup, mayonnaise?
The three.
sources
So you mean source XSAU or SOU?
SOU.
Where they come from, where code comes from.
We'll talk about three sources of code. Okay, so we talk about organic code, which is code we write ourselves. So we could say this code.
Is this organic code?
Yeah.
Okay.
Code we write ourselves. We talk about recycled code. Yeah. So that's code we've taken from somewhere else. And we talk about recorded code. Now we can use the macro recorder in VBA to record code. So we've got three sources of code: organic, recycled, and recorded. Okay. Now, in my experience, there is not a lot of organic code. There's some code we have to code organically. So if we talk about loops or conditional statements, for example, we have to put this code in. But a lot of code you can either recycle. So if you've got some code that you know works, why write it again? You know, just copy paste it in. Or is recorded code. We're going to look at recycled code at the moment. And this is a nice kind of micro example of recycling code because I want another cell reference.
But it's the same process essentially.
It's exactly the same process. The referencing is the same. So let's take the previous reference here and then let's just drop it in and make a small adjustment. Yeah, so we're looking for
change the cell.
C2. Yeah, there you go.
On it.
Now we've got to remember the concatenation here. Okay, how do we concatenate things? We use the and sign.
Ampersand. We mentioned that last night. The ampersand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're creating some meta themes across the whole series.
That's what we like.
So so this is going to be A2, the value in A2 combined or linked to, or concatenated with. I can't quite find the word. Combined together with the contents of the cell from C2, like parked on the end of.
Yeah.
What's the word? I'm not sure what the word is, but it's like one train joins on to the end.
Coupled.
Of another train.
Coupled.
Okay.
Hit us up in the live chat if you have better ideas.
Suggestions there. Okay, so if we run this code now, Steve, what do you think is going to happen here? If we run this code now, I know you're keeping an eye on the chat.
I'm going to add to sheet value. Just to be clear, viewers, Chris isn't asking me this rhetorically. I genuinely don't know the answer to this question. Range C2 value. Well, okay. It's saying A2 to C2, so that's defining the range cell A2 to cell C2.
Well, it's saying A2 and coupled with
C2.
Yeah.
So are you asking me whether that's going to work? Am I supposed to find something missing from there, or do we think that's going to work?
No. It's going to do something. It's not exactly what we want. But let's
let's see.
Let's have a look. Okay, let's play this. Good. So we've now got sparfaq 1. Okay.
Well, that's worked. That's what we wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah. This is working fine.
Win.
Okay. So we've got the contents of cell A2 just here.
Concatenated
with coupled with cell C2. Okay. But I'd say there's something missing here because ideally you'd like space there, wouldn't you, to separate those two. So sparfaq space 1.
Space 1.
Yeah. So how would we knock that in? Well, that means we're going to put our own text string in, and we do that using speech marks and then another ampersand, another and sign to combine together those text strings. Okay.
So and the reason that there's nothing between those two speech marks is it's supposed to be a space.
Exactly. There is something there. Yes.
If you wanted to call it sparfaq number 1, you could put number in there.
We could not number in that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that. Okay. So let's play this now. There we go, and we've got sparfaq 1 with a space in that. Looking good. Yeah.
Love it.
So now we want, so we've got A2, C2, and we want G2 as well. So again, what are the sources of code? Got
organic,
mustard.
No, organic, recycled, recorded.
Excellent. Okay, so let's recycle. Recycle something we know that works. I've got to use another underscore here, yeah, because we're continuing the same line of code.
Right, plus the
and then Control V to paste in. So this is the right construction with the wrong reference. So let's make a tweak to the code. G2. Okay, we should be ready to rock and roll that.
It won't. What if it won't include F2? It doesn't include all the cells in between.
Correct.
Which we want.
These are single, exactly.
Right. And if you wanted them all, then
references.
okay.
Single cell references. Okay. Yeah, we could do that as well by changing the references. Won't go into that here, but that would also be possible. Okay. So let's play this.
Let's run it. Bang.
There we go.
Straight up.
Fact 100. Okay. Is that Andrew still with us? Is this looking decent?
I think. Yeah. I think so. Andrew, give us a shout if we are addressing your needs as a viewer. That's what we're trying to do. Okay, so just then, let's just jump out for a sec.
Yes.
We have, as far as I can see, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve now.
For a single sheet.
Okay, yeah. And we want to do this across multiple sheets. And that's the last stage in this story. Okay.
Indeed. Okay.
So if you're patiently waiting for Pradeep's question, then it's coming. It's coming in about 5 minutes or so.
Excellent.
Okay, we continue then.
Good. So remember the 3 sources of code. We've got recycled code. Yeah.
Organic.
Some recycling. We can record code. Not doing that in this video. You'll see other videos on the channel. There's examples of using the VBA recorder to record code. Now we're going to have to use some organic code here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what technique we're working with? Well, the most powerful technique in VBA and probably in coding generally, we're going to see right here. We're calling this a beginner task, but there's some advanced techniques here. You know, the building blocks we're using here are the same building blocks that an advanced coder, you know, whatever that might mean, would be using. Okay. Now, I wonder if you know, Steve, but if you do a repeated task, you can tell from my hand motion what the word I'm looking for. If you do a repeated task in coding, what's the programming term for going through code multiple times?
Parsing? No. Oh, I tried.
It's like we're going down to the bottom to the top, like round and round.
Recycle? No.
So I'm being cruel because I haven't even told you this. Yeah.
I don't know. I honestly don't know.
If we just look at my hand motion here, we're kind of looping.
People looping. Okay.
Exactly.
The internet was screaming it. I'm so sorry, everyone. I just don't know. Okay, I'm going to write it down. No. So that's looping. Yeah, it seems obvious. Well, it's obvious when you know the answer.
Exactly. So we're going to use loops to get a huge amount of work done. So what's a loop? Well, a loop is a repeated piece of code. It's just a set of code. We're going to repeat a number of times, and we're going to carefully control how many times we repeat it. And every time we go through the code, Excel is going to execute the code with some very slight differences every time. Some slight differences every time. So in this case, every sheet, we want to do the same thing. And what we've done already, this is what we want to do on every sheet. But we've got to think about how to reference the sheets, because each time we go through the loop, we want Excel to look at a different sheet. Okay? So there's going to be some theoretical ideas, yeah. But these the concept of a loop is the most difficult concept in coding, you know, full stop, really. So you can't really have a beginner coding video, you know, with loops in. So we're going to have to get into the language of loops in Excel VBA. But before we do that, I think are we going very slowly? Maybe we're going really slowly, but if we go any faster, we miss all the good stuff.
Yes, yeah, no, it's true. It's fair enough.
We do miss all the good stuff.
People are still watching.
Before that,
some people are still watching.
There's a few still in.
That's all right.
But we've got to think about how Excel is put together, okay, as a program. So we look in Excel, I mean, what have we got in Excel? We've got some files, we've got workbooks, we've got some sheets, worksheets in a workbook, we've got cells in a workbook as well. These are the components of Excel's object hierarchy. Object hierarchy. Okay, so we've got different objects there, cells, worksheets, workbooks, and then we've got lots and lots of other objects too. Not going to go too deep into this. And there's something of a hierarchy here because a file consists of worksheets and worksheets consists of cells. Okay, and this is the basic structure of Excel. This is how it's put together. And this is important because if we can understand this, we can harness it to get so much done really quickly. Okay, so we've got the idea of the object hierarchy. We've also got to think about collections. Yeah, so on each level of this hierarchy, yeah, we have a collection. Yeah, so the open workbooks we refer to as a collection. The worksheets in the workbook we refer to as a collection, and the cells in the worksheet we refer to as a collection. So what we want to do is say to Excel, for each object in this collection.
So collection is a level of the hierarchy?
Yes, okay. Yes. For each object in this collection, do something to each of the objects. Yeah. So in our case, for each worksheet in the workbook, do something to the worksheet.
So we're working on the worksheet level of the hierarchy.
Absolutely, yeah. We could be working on cells or
above cells, but below
workbooks, we could say. Yeah. I think these are the fundamental levels of the object hierarchy. Okay. So how do we do this? Well, can anybody name a looping technique in the chat? Can anybody name a VBA loop in the chat? We've spoken about the concepts of the loop. We want to make the jump now into the technical stuff, into the language. So, what is the language of loops in Excel VBA? We've got 2 or 3 well-established techniques that we could use to get this done. So, anybody in the chat? Okay, Andrew.
We got 4 for each loop, and we got 4 loop being suggested by Football Manager here.
Yep.
And Andrew's also said a variable which is for each sheet in the workbook.
Yep.
Is it a for each loop, or am I wrong? So they're clearly...
Andrew is very close. So Andrew's right on the money, actually. Yeah, he's spot on. Okay.
And Football Manager.
As with all coding tasks, there's different approaches. As you get more advanced with coding, it becomes less of a science and more of an art. It becomes more of a question of style because there's lots of different ways of doing it. The best way, in my view anyway, the best way to do this task is with a for each loop. And you could get some clues from the way I was describing the hierarchy and stuff. But that's the language we need. Yeah. So we're going to say for each, well, first we're going to define a variable. Dim Chris sheet as sheet. Yeah. So in order to get this loop working, we're going to loop through all of the objects on one level of the object hierarchy. In order to get this working, we need to declare a variable. Now, this is the most difficult part, I think, to understand. And to be honest, even now, I don't find it intuitive. It's a bit bolted on to the process. But we have to give Excel a variable, and we're saying, rather than referring to the sheets directly, we're going to use this variable name to refer to the sheets. I don't think we should get too far into that. I think we've just got to take it as given. And plow on, okay? But we'd see we've got a variable name, so you can take something out of this. You can see we've got an informative variable name. We haven't said worksheet or something. I've said Chris sheet because I know Excel won't have reserved that for anything else. And it's an informative variable name. So just like with the name of the subroutine, the names of the variables should be informative so we can understand them.
Right.
Okay? And I can put an annotation in there too. Sheets in the workbook. There we go. And now we get our for next loop. So we say for each object in this collection. For each object in this collection. We're going to say for each Chris sheet, which is our variable name, in active workbook. sheets. Okay. Now, when you open a loop, you've got to remember to close the loop straight away. You know, a common mistake and something I always used to do was I'll get a loop started, do a load of code, and then forget to close it at the end. And, you know, sometimes, you know, the end of a loop will be, you know, 2 or 3 screens down, and it would be very difficult to kind of put those two together. Okay, so we've got for and next here. So these are the key ingredients of the loop that I think Football Manager or Andrew said. A for next loop. So we've got for at the top here, then we've got next at the bottom. For opens the loop, next closes the loop. Okay.
Right.
So Steve, I've got another annoying question for you here. Steve, my coding guinea pig, doing a sterling job. So how many times is Excel? Well, we know that a loop is just a repeated set of code. Excel is going to work through the loop a certain number of times. So how many times is Excel going to work through this piece of code from the information you've picked up so far?
Well, you haven't defined any number of loops, so I would think it'll just do it once.
The number of loops is implicit there.
Oh,
so you're absolutely right. We haven't put a number in there. We could use a different looping technique and put a number in. Okay.
But it's defined by the number of the number of workbooks. No, worksheets.
Absolutely.
It's defined by the number of worksheets.
Okay. Yes, it is the number
60
of worksheets.
In this case.
Very good. Very good.
On it.
So, but you just hit on a really important learning point, which is we could say do it 60 times. Yeah. But what if we then added a sheet? Yeah,
so you need the dynamic thing again.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is dynamic. So if Andrew had to go in the file, delete half the sheets, this is still going to work absolutely fine. If you had to put another 100 sheets in, this is going to work absolutely fine. So this is the dynamic quality. It's just
a long-term approach, isn't it, to make sure that your future self isn't hating on your current self for taking shortcuts.
Exactly. And, you know, but we could get in some quite difficult situations there, because if we had hard coded the number of sheets here and then somebody added sheets, then Excel would do the routine, but it wouldn't tell us that it hadn't done all the sheets.
And people in the office will be swearing and cursing Excel, it's useless, doesn't work, but Excel's just like, I'm only doing what you told me.
There you go.
Poor Excel.
Exactly.
Oh.
So
I'm going to drink it to Excel and what it has to suffer. Chris, just give us a sense, how close to the end of this are we now? Are we approaching...
we're like 80% through now.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we're nearly there, guys.
Yeah. So we just need to make one change here, one important change. So if we keep using active sheets, then Excel is going to keep making the changes to the active sheet. So we need to change this reference. So the people in the chat might be thinking, what can we, what do we need to change this to? We don't want Excel to keep changing information on the active sheets. We want Excel to loop through the sheets, go through the sheets one by one, and to change the sheet names as it works through the whole file. Okay. Has anybody got any ideas here in the chat?
There's going to be a bit of a delay, I think. We've got sort of like a 90-second delay on the on stuff coming through, so that might take a while.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we should push ahead here. But
yeah, go on.
This is where the variable name is so useful. Okay. So we're going to put the variable name in here, and then just for complete. No, this would be necessary. This is not just for completeness. We have to repeat the variable name in these sheet references to make sure that Excel is referring to the right sheet rather than just looking at the first sheet every time. That wouldn't be useful for us. So I think we are approaching, just going to save the file here. There we go. I think we're approaching completion here.
So can we have a glorious moment where we run the whole thing and then dance around the room?
Yes. Do some coding chanting.
Coding chanting, or enchanting coding,
Here we go. Right, let's give this a go. So I've saved the file.
And what should happen? Just so we know, so we know visually that we've done it. What are we expecting is going to happen now?
What we're expecting to happen is the names of the sheets to change. So we can see the names of the sheets in the tabs down here. So sheet 2, for example, we'd expect it to become Sparfach 2
Right.
and 200.
And so they will all change according to what's in them,
That's the plan.
as it were. Okay.
We haven't had an error so far. I am expecting one. Absolutely. In fact, it would be actually quite informative. You know.
Okay.
Educational to get
Right.
one.
I think I will be upset if there's an error. I expect it to work first time.
Okay. Let's go. There we go. Yes, we have got.
I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip this table over.
Okay.
You can't do that.
I think this is the variable type.
That's my temperament, you see. This is why Chris is a patient Excel worker. I'd just be why doesn't it work?
Many tables have been flipped.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so sorry, what was the problem?
I think it is. I still don't know if this is going to work, but it was a problem with the variable type. Okay, I call this variable a sheet, and it should have been a worksheet. Okay, we've got various.
Get it right, man.
Various different variable types. I'm sure in another that's a topic in itself. Different variables and the best variables.
We have got one question, two questions maybe from Andrew and Mauro. Mauro says, could you repeat, because you had to declare a variable,
yes.
Does VBA not recognise all the sheets in the notebook itself?
Very good, Mauro. Yes. Well, good to see you again, Mauro. Mauro was here yesterday, so welcome again. Very good question, and this was the issue I tried to gloss over.
These people aren't here for glossing.
Exactly.
We're drilling in deep, Christopher. Don't be glossing over anything. Okay, go on.
Yes. Why do we declare this variable? Okay. I agree with you, Mauro. It doesn't seem like it should be necessary to declare this variable. I mean, Excel should know what's in it. Yeah. So we should be able to say to Excel, for each sheet for each sheet in the file, do something. Yeah. That's what we should be able to say, but we have to declare a variable for this. And the variable allows us to control the loop. Yeah, this is where we're using the variable. So we're saying, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just saying what we want it to do is to loop through all of the sheets. We have to use a variable to get Excel to do that. We use the variable at the beginning of the loop, at the end of the loop. We also use the variable within the loop as a dynamic reference to make sure that Excel keeps working through the sheets. Okay. Not absolutely sure if this is going to work. It might need some more tweaking, but let's give it a go. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it seems to have worked. Oh, Steve, you missed it.
I'm on the chat.
Okay, 400. So you can see the tabs at the bottom now.
But it's working.
Yeah.
My successful coding dance.
Okay.
I contributed nothing to this. I'm just bathing in the reflected glory.
I'm just going through them.
Andrew, we did this for you, man. We did this for you.
There we go.
You're welcome.
Good. So this seems to be working well, and we are getting some feedback from Andrew.
Well, slowly, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Andrew, you said you had a question. I don't see it though. So slam it into the chat.
Yeah.
If you can. So we've reached the end of this first part.
Yes.
Do you have any concluding comments that we need to just before we move on?
What I would say is that we're calling this a beginner coding task, but it represents so well what a lot of people are trying to get done. So you've got a repetitive task. You really wouldn't want to have to go through all 60 sheets and make those changes manually. So as you can see, with a little bit of code, how many lines have we got here, Steve? We've got 6 or 7 lines of code. Okay, and let's see how long it takes to run. Started it, stopped it. You know, it took 2 or 3 seconds to run. So we've got small amount of code, incredibly powerful.
It's the Excel revolution in a bottle, really. It's a small investment in time and knowledge pays itself off many times.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have 2 questions, and you're gonna have to see. Well, I'll go for the first one we had first. If that works, we can answer it. Then great. Otherwise, I'll go to the second one. Okay. So the first one was from Pradeep, and it was from half an hour ago.
Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in.
He says, could you please show me how to look up a picture based on cell value?
Ooh. Look up a picture based on cell value. Okay.
I'm wondering what you mean by a picture with that.
Can you make sure we've got the right...
Yeah, we're on. Okay, we're both at it.
Yeah. Okay. Look up a picture based on cell value. So Pradeep, where is the picture? That's the question I want to ask. I don't know if you can...
If you're still watching, then put it in the chat and let us know. We have a second question from Football Manager, who already excelled, he excelled himself by answering the question earlier correctly. Fantastic. He says, I have a problem at work. Can we imagine there's data under the columns across multiple sheets? Can we write code to consolidate that data in one master sheet? Now, that sounds like it might be a bit of a big task.
Yeah, I don't think it's something we do today.
Right.
But, Football Manager, and thanks for your contributions today. We appreciate it. This sounds like another typical coding task. If you had to do that manually, it's going to take you a lot of time, to copy paste data from multiple sheets into a single sheet. Going to take a long time, but very typical of what people are trying to get done out there. So I would say, Football Manager, email it to us. Yeah, and I will see if we can do a live stream on that. It might be me on my own, because going back from Berlin on Monday morning, unfortunately. So email it to us, Football Manager, and we'll see what we can do. I would also say the techniques you'll need for that are very similar to the techniques that we've used in this video. Okay, so maybe you can go through this video and you might be able to get it done, or part of it done. Certainly if you go through our Excel VBA for Beginners playlist on the YouTube channel, you'll be able to develop the skills you need to do it there. Email it through to me, and that could be a good one for a live stream. So thank you, Football Manager. I want to know, why is Football Manager called Football Manager? Is he actually a football manager?
We need to know. The people need to know. Pradeep's got back to us. He says any picture, e.g. a country flag. Once we change the country name, so dynamically the flag should also change.
Okay.
So I'm thinking you have like a bank of reference pictures somewhere, and then you're fetching those and putting them in the relevant place somewhere else in the spreadsheet.
Okay. Right, Pradeep. Yeah, this is a complicated one. I'm not absolutely confident you'll be able to do that. What you can tell you what you can do. So if you have a file, a folder somewhere with pictures saved in it, you would be able to locate and open those pictures using Excel VBA. So you'll certainly be able to open them up.
Could you insert them into them? Could you somehow?
I think yes. You would also be able to insert the picture. So the way, this is assuming this is what you're trying to do, but the way you would do that would be to record the code. Remember the sources of code, Steve? So you could record the code in order to start the macro recorder, and then go and insert the picture. Go through Excel, insert the picture, stop the macro recorder, and then inspect the code. And you should be able to tweak the code to get it working for you. So good luck with that. That is my advice for getting started.
Feel free to mail in an example file that you have where you're trying to do this, and we can take a look at it.
Take a look. Yeah, we can't guarantee we're going to live stream everything, unfortunately. But if you send it to us, Pradeep. You just said sure in the chat. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Send it through to us.
Okay, we're sort of moving towards the end now. Let's just see. Andrew's got back in touch. It's been Andrew's task that we've been talking about all day today. So thanks again to him for taking the time and last night sending us these materials. It's been very informative for me as well. He asked a question. He says the list of names for the cell G2 is indeed a new file. Is it possible to take this into the file so that you use so that you make two files into one, or does the code then take longer?
So are you saying you've got two files, Andrew, that are doing a similar thing? That's what I've understood. You've got two files that are, the same format as this file, the same.
So specifically G2. The list of names for the cell G2 is indeed a new file.
There's a VLOOKUP in that, right? Is a new file. Is it possible to take this into the file? Yes, it is, Andrew. I think I've understood what you're trying to do there. Okay, so this can you just check the views? All right, Steve. Yeah, that's looking right.
Yeah, that's good.
This VLOOKUP we've got here In fact, I'm going to experiment with scene 2 because we're only going to look at the Excel file. We're not looking at VBA at the moment. That's going to come through on the stream in a second.
Yep.
Good. So we're talking about this VLOOKUP formula here. I can see from the reference that yes, this refers to another file. So yes, assuming you don't have lots of data, so assuming you don't have hundreds of thousands of rows, and it's unlikely you do, yeah, you can shift that database, yeah, that data set you've got, shift the sheet into this file, and then you'll have to tweak this formula. You'll have to tweak the reference. You'll probably have to rewrite the formula in order to get it done. This will present an additional challenge, however, yeah, because remember the code we had, going back to scene 3, the code we have here is going to do something to each of the sheets in the workbook. Yeah. So if you have a data sheet in the workbook and you don't want the name of that sheet to change, remember we were changing the names of the sheets, then you're going to have to tweak the code so that it skips that particular sheet, so that it avoids that particular sheet. Now we won't do this today, but I have a video. We've got a video series on the channel which is Excel VBA for post beginners. Excel VBA for post beginners. I do exactly that in this video series. Loop through all the sheets in the workbook and avoid one of the sheets. So check that series out, Andrew.
I would say that we are drawing to a close for this. Yep. It's been a lovely Saturday evening in Berlin. Wherever you are, nighttime, morning, daytime, we hope you've enjoyed the stream. And thank you so much for everyone that watched, and especially those people that got involved, sent us their questions, got involved on the live chat. It's really good fun. It's good fun for me just to moderate this whole thing. And Chris, well, he loves talking about Excel, as you may have noticed. Mm-hmm. So it's just a win-win. Tomorrow, wish us a bit of luck, because we're not going to be sat here having a nice chat with you. We're going to be running around the streets of Berlin, because we're both doing the Berlin half marathon tomorrow morning. That's why Chris is here. And in terms of the future of these live streams, I think it's definitely going to happen again. Possibly with me, possibly not with me. Yeah. If you do some from home, from the UK where you're based.
But the general model of people watching the live stream, then having questions, sending files in for the next live stream, I would like to keep that, and I will prioritise requests from people who have watched the live stream as opposed to people who email or something like that. And that could, because we've moved quite nicely from the first live stream to the second live stream, haven't we? So yeah, but just to echo what Steve says, thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for watching the live stream, and we will have another one very soon. So keep an eye out on Facebook, Twitter, and also tell other people about the live stream, about the channel, and we hope to see you very soon.
Yeah.
Wrap it up there.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you online soon.
Cheers, guys.
Cheerio.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.